Okay. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and this is going to be the state expedited accusation calendar with the State Court of Fulton County for today, November 28th, 2023. This is a list of misdemeanor cases in which individuals were recently arrested and brought to the Fulton County Jail. Upon being booked in at the jail, the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County, which is the prosecutor, has already formally accused the defendant of the charges brought against him or her. Hence, this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer, at which time I like to remind the defendants of their rights. The first one is you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of your case, your statements can and will be used against you. Would the host please mute Quan Gordon? Thank you. As I was saying, the defendants have a right to remain silent. Anything they choose to say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. Please remember that this entire virtual proceeding is being recorded and live streamed. So do not say anything about your case and let your attorney speak for you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to represent you from the Public Defender's Office or from our conflict defense list. When I call your case, I will let you know what is your new accusation number, what are the charges brought against you, who is going to be appointed your counsel if one is required, also to set a bond if one has not been previously set, or to modify the bond that's presently in place. Some of you may also get a new court date, and the next court date will most likely also be a virtual proceeding, which means that whoever intends to attend the next proceeding, you would need a Zoom link from the state court clerk's office. Ms. Bridgewater, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The SAP court date is December the 12th.
All right. Thank you so much. And is that a Tuesday? That's a Tuesday. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So attorneys, if you plan to put any of your clients on the 11 o'clock competency calendar, please be aware that that calendar won't be till December 14th. Okay, courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Good afternoon, Judge Law. This is going to be position 10, Jones.
This is Carliana, I think. Carliana. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Carliana Jones?
Carriana.
Okay. Carliana Jones. All right, Ms. Jones, these are the following charges that have been brought against you stemming from a traffic matter. It's too fast for conditions, failure to keep in the proper lane, following too closely, driving on a suspended or revoked registration, hit and run, and failure of the driver to stop and return to the scene of the accident, and driving while license suspended or revoked. That would be a total of 6 charges of which you've been accused. You've been advised to have your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Atayet. Mr. Howard, any priors?
No, jail was the recommendation.
All right. Mr. Pierre Thomas, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brief facts of the case, but I just want to go ahead and state that the state is going to recommend a signature bond through the jail on the charges, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and no driving without valid license or registration. And if you give me 2 seconds while the warrant pulls up, I just want to put brief facts to give some understanding of certain things that are questionable in the citation.
Mm-hmm. Questionable in the citation? Okay.
Yeah, typically when we say too fast for conditions, sometimes when the accusation is produced, it's because of the number. But in this situation, she is too fast for conditions because she was driving so fast that there were cars stopped in traffic. and she didn't leave enough time to get over it. And so that can kind of get jumbled up with following too closely. And so I just want to give the facts essentially as it relates to that. A moment.
Just 1 second, Mr. Pierre Thomas. There's a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ray Ray. If you plan to attend the proceeding, you need to be seated and not moving around. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so she was basically, the indicia for that is that she was driving at such a high rate of speed that it was not reasonably prudent for her at the current traffic conditions to stop. She was unable to stop behind the traffic and she had to steer right, failing to maintain her lane to avoid the stopped traffic in the traveling lane. I think everything else is pretty straightforward in terms of the hit and run, driving with license while license suspended or revoked, and the failure to maintain lane and the following too closely. But I just wanted to separate and parse out the difference between following too closely and too fast for conditions, basic rules violation. But that is the recommendation from the state, Your Honor. And she was, by the way, on I-20 eastbound entrance ramp to I-75-85 connection northbound.
All right. And Ms. Atay, I'm just going to simply set a signature bond through the jail if you have, and no driving unless she has a valid driver's license, proper insurance, adequate insurance, and that the vehicle is registered. Any objection?
No objections. Thank you, Your
All right.
Honor.
On the basic rules, too fast for conditions is 500. Failure to keep in the proper lane is 500. Following too closely is 1,000. Driving on a suspended or revoked registration is 500. Hit and run, failure of the driver to return to the scene of the accident is 2,000. And driving while license suspended or revoked is 1,000. That entirely would be a signature bond through the jail. Conditions to the bond is no driving unless she has a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and proper registration for the vehicle that she operates. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should be 5,500 total signature bond through the jail. Ms. Jones, please understand that you can sign up for your bond today. You won't need to pay your bond, but it is a 5,500 signature bond. If you get arrested again for anything else, if you violate the conditions of the bond, please, or you fail to appear in court when summoned, this 5,500 signature bond will be revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. Do you understand, Ms. Jones? You understand, Ms. Jones?
Yes, Ron.
All right, thank you. Next case, please.
We'll go ahead then. Now let's see. Position 12, McLean.
Lanisha McLean is 23 CR 7480J, accused of theft by taking from December 23rd, 2022. Ms. McLean, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Atay. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
6 total. Last was 2013, operating motor vehicle without a valid license.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Brief facts of the case, Your Honor, is that on December 27, 2022, the officers responded to a complaint from a theft at a Ross department store. The reporting party was the area loss prevention manager, Jarrell Clark, and they advised that an employee had stolen some money from the register. They advised that on 12/23/22 is when the defendant had committed the theft. They advised that a security camera caught footage of the incident. On the security camera footage, the defendant could be seen completing a customer transaction at the second register. According to Ms. Clark, the defendant put in no sale on the computer, which opened the cash drawer. The defendant then took the money out of the register, placed it in a dark colored bag, a register teal bag, placed the bag under the register, came back for it later. When she came back for it, she walked to the back and clocked out and left the business. Ms. Clark said that the only people that are authorized to even handle the money are the managers, and that's only when the business is closed. The estimated total that was in the register is said to have been $1,462.67. In addition, the value of that bag was $5, so we're just shy of that felony. The officer made an attempt to reach the defendant several times, 3 times to be specific. She didn't answer or return voicemails. With that being said, though, Your Honor, given the limited criminal history, the state is going to recommend a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, a stay away from that Ross location. That location is 7111 North Point Parkway in Alpharetta, Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia. And I'd say to have no contact with Mr. Clark, Jarrell Clark, JERRELLCLARK. Nothing further to add from the state at this time, Your Honor.
Any objection to the conditions, Mr. Tate?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. McLean, your bond is going to be set at $2,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. You will report to pretrial once a month. You are to stay away from the Ross department store at 7111 North Point Parkway and have no contact with the staff member known as Jarrell Clark. You are not to consume any illegal drugs and not possess any weapons or firearms. Make sure your mailing address is current with us at all times. If you get arrested again for anything else, if you don't report to pretrial, or if you don't report to court, your signature bond will be revoked and converted to a cash bond or a surety bond. Thank you. Ms. McLeod needs to interview her clients. Ms. McLeod, could you identify who are your clients? Ms. Maureen McLeod? Is it Deputy Francois in courtroom 2?
Yes, it is, Judge.
Do you know who are Ms. McLeod's clients?
I'm checking right now.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. It's Santana and Cantu de Villa.
Okay.
So, Ms. McLeod, they're gonna call, Officer Norris is gonna call you on the phone,
That would be fine.
okay?
Your
Yes.
Honor, sorry, I also need to interview positions 19 and 20, Turner and Williams.
Deputy Francois, Turner and Williams in courtroom 2?
Williams is en route, and then who's the other person?
Williams.
Kanajle Turner.
Okay.
All right, either they can be placed in a separate location to do a breakout, or they would have to call courtroom 2 in turn. Okay? All right, next case, please, in courtroom 2.
Position 11, Marquita.
Is that your case, Mr. Tay?
No, it's not.
This is Baker Marquetta, 23 CR 7479H, accused of contributing to the delinquency of a minor from July 25th, 2023. Ms. Marquetta, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Abdon.
Second arrest, 2005, carrying a pistol without a license. Carrying concealed weapon, level 1.
What year was that?
2005.
2005. Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas is.
Yeah, brief facts of the case is that it looks like on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, the defendant went to Young Middle School, which is located at 3116 Benjamin E. Mays Drive, Southwest Atlanta. Due to her son, the son being a juvenile, I'll announce that he is JB, calling her and stating that he was going to be jumped by somebody. The defendant went to the school with 6 to 8 males to approach the other victim, who's a juvenile, initials J and P. A third-party juvenile, initials D and D, is one of the juveniles that exited the defendant's vehicle and approached the victim. Again, that victim's initials were J and P. Approached the victim, at which point the defendant did motion and gesture for that other juvenile D and D to slap the victim, causing the victim's upper body to move backwards. It's alleged that one of the juveniles that were in the vehicle with the defendant had a firearm on his person. Given the facts of the case, given the presence of the juveniles, the state will, in the presence of a firearm, the state will request a $5,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, a stay away from that incident location, which is that school, and for her to have no contact with the JP. I can give that information in the chat or to the personally in the chat with the JP. And I don't know what her relationship is with the second juvenile D&D, but the state would like for her not to have communication with that individual as well, because that's another individual she was contributing to the delinquency of.
Okay. Ms. Abden?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client firmly denies the allegations. It's my understanding that, without going too much into the facts, she was picking up her son from school, and there was an altercation between the boys, but you know, she was not involved. She does deny the allegations. She even told me that this was resolved within the school internally. So she went to go have a meeting with the principal, and they had resolved everything. Her son was suspended from the sports team temporarily, but now he's back on the sports team. As you'll see in the warrant affidavit, this occurred in July. So she was very surprised by the fact that they took a warrant out, considering everything was resolved. Again, like I said, she does deny the allegations. She is 38 years old. She's lived in Georgia her whole life. She is gainfully employed. She works at Dollar Tree, and she does qualify for the public defender's office, Your Honor. She does not make that much money, so her indigency is a concern. She does have 5 boys. They are 19, 16, 15, 12, and 2. And so she is the primary caregiver and breadwinner for those children. So I'm asking you to take that into consideration today. Since the recommendation is a signature bond through the jail, she has no prior FTAs and her last arrest is in 2005. I am asking for a signature bond through the jail. She has agreed to a stay away. She stated that given the circumstances, she's going to move her son from this school, and she does not know those 2 other boys. I asked her several times. She doesn't recognize those names, so she would also agree to a no further contact.
Bond is set at $3,500. It is a signature bond through pretrial services. She's to stay away from Young Middle School, 200 yards away from that school, to stay away from the alleged victim identified as JP, and I've got the name. Miss Bridgewater, do you have the name of the alleged victim? I can
It's in the
send.
chat.
Yeah, I think Mr. Pierre Thomas put it in the chat. I don't know whether he sent it to you, but he may have sent it to you already.
Okay.
All right.
What level?
Level 1. No illegal drugs. And Miss Marquetta, you are not to possess any weapons or firearms. They're not there to be none in your home, on your person, in any vehicle you occupy, or anywhere near you. So if there are any weapons or firearms in your home, they have to go, right? You have to surrender them to the authorities for destruction. Make sure you, if you plan to move, that you update the court with your new mailing address, because if you do not report to court when summoned, if you get arrested again for anything else, or if you fail to report to pretrial once a month, your signature bond will be revoked and converted to a cash bond or a surety bond. Thank you.
Position 9, how?
Deshaun Howell, is that correct? Is that Deshaun Howell?
Yes.
Okay. Is accused of battery from August 5th, 2022. And you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Miss Abden. Okay. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
15 total. 2023 forgery, identity theft out of Douglas County. 2022 theft by receiving, forgery, giving false name. 2019 reckless conduct, NOLO. 2017 stalking arrest was level 3.
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 445 Cleveland Avenue, where they spoke with the victim, Miss Nishana Bowser. She advised that the defendant and I believe 2 other individuals came to her home, attacking her. She was struck in the back of the head, leaving her with a swollen left eye and several knots on her face. The state is asking for a $2,000 surety bond, no contact with the victim, a stay away from the incident location, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And of course, we would sound for the victim, Miss Bowser.
Nashana Bowser? I do see a name there, Nashana Bowser. If you want to address the court, you would need to unmute and start your video, but otherwise we can move on.
And I need to update that stay away address. It's actually going to be 1225 Fairburn Road.
Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes, I believe so, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Abner?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 32 years old. She's lived in Georgia her whole life. She is a mother to 7 minor children. They are 14, 12, 11, 9, 7, 5, and 1. She is the primary caregiver and breadwinner for those children as she lost her husband last year. He was murdered. She is not working at this time, Your Honor. She's in school for nursing. She goes to Chattahoochee Tech. She firmly denies the allegations. She stated that she would agree to a stay away and a no further contact if that was necessary. Given the fact that there are 2 holds for her as well, I am requesting a signature bond, and I'm asking Your Honor to take her obligation to her children into consideration when setting bond today.
All right. Well, it's going to be that she's got a Paulding County hold and a Jackson County hold,
Yes.
and they both have no bonds. Okay. This is going to be a $3,000 signature bond through the jail to the Jackson County or the Paulding County hold only. So whenever she makes her bond, she needs to be released to one of those jurisdictions. No further contact with Nashana Bowser, Bowser, to stay 200 yards away from Miss Bowser and from the location 1225 Fairburn Road in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms. And Miss Howell will need to maintain a current mailing address with the court at all times so that she will let us know where she is, where we can send her notice to show back up in court. However, if she is detained in any facility, she will need to make sure that she notifies the office or someone notifies the clerk's office as to whether she's detained elsewhere, to explain her absence, if any. Okay, and that was a $3,000 signature bond to the jail, released to one of the holds only.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if I can just ask her if the stay away for the new address is okay by her. I just didn't get a chance to ask her that.
Go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Howell, are you okay with staying away from that address that they stated, the Fairburn address?
Yes, that's totally fine.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Next case.
Position 4, Brown. Yeah.
Deborah Brown is accused of simple battery, domestic violence, and cruelty in the 3rd degree. Are we still proceeding with the cruelty with the simple battery charge?
No, we're not, Your Honor.
All right. So is this going to be an NOD or a dismissal by?
It's accused, so it couldn't be an NOD.
Okay, so it'll be a null pros.
Yes, I can send one in.
All right, thank you. So Deborah Brown, you are charged with one offense of simple battery family violence, 23 CR 7466J from November 26, 2023. You've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Abden. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
No violence. 3rd arrest, 2018 was for DUI.
Mhm.
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 16201 Deer Point Court in Milton, Georgia. They spoke to the victim, Tanisha Brown, who advised that her and the defendant were engaged in a verbal altercation when the defendant became violent and pushed her down and drug her by her hair, I believe. The state is asking for a signature bond through pretrial services, a no contact with the victim, and a stay away from that instant location. No weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond.
Ms. Abden, any issue with the stay away with is it Walter Brown? Was that the victim's name?
Victim's
It's Tanisha.
Tanisha Brown, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Walter Brown was the okay, never mind.
No worries. So, Your Honor, no objection to the signature bond through pretrial service level 1. However, there is an objection to the stay away. So just without going too much into the facts, just some context. The complaining witness is my client's granddaughter. She was recently brought to Georgia to stay with her grandma due to some circumstances at home. And she was living with my client for a week. Since then, and since this alleged incident occurred, she is now going to be living with her mother in Alabama. It is my client's understanding that that was supposed to happen on Monday, so yesterday. So I understand we don't want to, leave her without a home. So if Your Honor is inclined, if we can do just, she can return with law enforcement to just make sure that she's not living there and she can return to her home.
Okay. On the simple batteries, a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. No further violent contact with Tanisha Brown. She may return to the Deer Point location in Milton, Georgia. She's not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not possess any weapons or firearms. She must report to pretrial once a month. So it's a level 1 reporting, and attend the 1-day anger awareness program with pretrial. Her next court date will be sent to the Deer Point address. If she changes it, she will need to update the court immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Law, for the cruelty, you said that was null pros, correct?
That would be correct, yes.
All right.
And Your Honor, I apologize. Just to clarify, should we set a bond for that just in case it doesn't get processed? I don't want her to remain in jail.
No, Mr. Walker is very good about sending in null pros orders. He's never let me down yet.
Awesome. Thank you.
I won't start today.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Position 6, Epic. Is that how you pronounce it?
This is Laura Effick, accused of simple battery family violence from September 20th, 2023. Accusations 23 CR 7468D. Ms. Effick, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Abden. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
5th arrest, 2020 possession of cocaine, hit and run. 2019 battery, criminal damage to property. 2015 ag assault dismissed. 2014 simple assault dismissed. Jail was the recommendation.
All right. Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 330 New Jersey Avenue, where they spoke to the victim, Miss Roberta Effick. She advised that her daughter, who is the defendant, and her were engaged in a verbal altercation. Her daughter struck her in the head several times. In speaking with the victim, she had some concerns for her daughter's MH. So the state is asking for a signature bond through pretrial services with the conditions of a BHET, no further violent contact, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And I will sign for the victim, Roberta Effick.
Roberta Effick, if you're on the Zoom and you want to say something, this will be the time to unmute and start your video. All right. Ms. Abden, they're asking for a BHET. What do you think?
Based on my conversation with Ms. Effick, I don't think that's necessary at this time. I think, she does deny the allegations. This was a situation where she's even okay not returning to the location. She thinks it's best that she doesn't live with her mother anymore. But if the court's inclined, no further violent contact is okay as well. And she's 38, she's gainfully employed, she's been living here her whole life. She has a ton of friends here, strong ties to community. And given the recommendation is signature bond through the jail, that is what I'm asking for as well.
Okay. On the simple battery, that's going to be a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. She level 1. She will report to pretrial once a month. She is to stay away from 330 New Jersey Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia, and have no contact with Roberta Effick. She's to stay 200 yards away from Roberta Effick, not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, including in person, through a third party, through any kind of computer or phone device, and even through social media. There is going to be no one-time visit to the location, so she has to make sure she doesn't return to the location. Within 30 days of being released from the jail, she has to update the court with her new mailing address, so we may send her the summons for her next court date. No consumption of illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no possession of firearms or weapons. Ms. Effick, I want you to complete a behavioral health evaluation with any healthcare provider, such as Grady Hospital or something to the effect. With regards to the evaluation, this must be done within 60 days of being released from jail. And you will provide the results of that evaluation to the pretrial officer. And pretrial may release the information to the public defense attorney, Ms. Abdon, as well as to Solicitor General, Assistant Solicitor General, Mr. Ian Walker. Thank you.
And Your Honor, we're not going to be representing her moving forward. She does not qualify.
Okay, then pretrial will just divulge the results to ASG Walker and whoever she hires after today.
Thank you, Your Honor. And you stated that there would be no one-time law enforcement escort for her to gather her items.
I thought you said she didn't want to go back there at all. Does she need a one-time visit?
I believe so. That's where she was residing. So she does need to get her stuff, but she stated that she's going to go stay with a friend here in Georgia moving forward, as her and her mom are not getting along at this time.
Okay, then in that case, I will allow a one-time visit with a police officer. There must be a police officer accompanying her to retrieve her personal belongings. That visit cannot exceed 1 hour.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you're done. Okay. Position 2, Ms. Albert.
India Albert, middle name Monique, is accused of battery family violence from November 27, 2023. The accusation is 23 CR 7464J. Ms. Albert, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Abdon. Mr. Howard?
First, level 1.
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 3440 Boulder Park Drive, where they spoke to the victim and Mr. Quan Gordon, who advised that him and the defendant were engaged in a verbal altercation. The defendant attacked him. The state is asking for a signature bond through pretrial services. No contact with Quan Gordon. No weapons, drugs, or alcohol while on bond. We are also asking for a one-day anger awareness. I believe the victim, Mr. Gordon, is on the line.
Mr. Quan Gordon, if you want to make any statements, all right.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. First of all, let's do a couple of home rules. The screen must be focused on your face. All right. And if you'd like to raise your right hand, I need to place you under oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know India Albert? You can put your hand down.
I know India Albert. She's my baby mother / girlfriend. Been together 4 years, going on 5. We have a 1-year-old, going to be 2 years old, December 12th.
And what would you like to tell me about this? Do you still want to have contact with her?
Yes, ma'am. I want, like I told the DA who called earlier, it was just a simple altercation that led it to something that it didn't need to be. And I feel like that I need her as well as my son needs her to help better our son. He's only 2 years, he's finna be 2 years old, December 12th. And I feel like we can resolve the problem in the situation. And she's no effect or harm to me at all. She's from Oklahoma and she's down here, and I've been by each other's side since then.
So she's from Oklahoma and she just visited, or she's been here for 4 or 5 years with you?
She been here for 4 or 5 years. She went to college down here. at Clark, Atlanta.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Walker, this was the case, I think there was an allegation of a weapon being involved.
Yes, and when we spoke with the victim earlier, he said that there was no weapon.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Abden, anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. No objection to the signature bond. I am requesting that that be through the jail, given there's no criminal history. But you know, if Your Honor is inclined, pretrial services level 1 would be okay too. She is 22 years old. As you've heard, she's been living in Georgia for about 4 to 5 years, since 2019. She went to Clark for college. She currently is in school now at Atlanta Tech for nursing. So she just switched over to something else. She is a mother to a 2-year-old son. The incident location is her home. So her and the complaining witness do not reside together, Your Honor. So I am requesting she be allowed to return to her home and be with her son. And she is denying the allegations as stated in the warrant.
Does your client want Quan Gordon living in there? Because according to the warrant, all his items were in the front yard. So I am a little perplexed as to whether, well, clearly he's not living there anymore, since apparently they were all his possessions were tossed out in the front yard at the time of the alleged incident.
And Your Honor, she does deny the allegations as stated in the warrant. I do understand, but this is all we have at this time, Your Honor. This is just what the officers are saying. This is not an evidentiary hearing at this time. It's just a bond. And so if we can ask him, he's here, she's here. I mean, I don't think he resides at the location.
I don't need to ask them. I'm just reading the officer's warrant.
I saw that too. Yeah, I
They
know.
arrived. I mean, you can't miss out all the personal items sitting out there. So, that would be a problem. Mr. Gordon, I guess I'll give you the courtesy. Do you reside at 3440 Boulder Park Drive, or have you been asked to leave?
I reside there.
With your belongings out in the front yard?
Yeah, I live here.
And that's not what I asked you. Do you live there with your belongings out in the front?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Well, your belongings were in the front yard, according to the warrant.
Yes, ma'am. When I got home, my belongings was outside.
So she clearly wants you out of the house. That is a problem. Okay.
Well, we both help. To be honest, we helping each other pay everything. So it's like,
Mr. Gordon, you are two roommates who can't get along because someone was arrested. So I really am at this point where both of you are needed. That's a different question. But that's your child and that's her child. And right now, if you have that child outside of wedlock and if you haven't legitimated the child, then the child belongs to her, not to you.
correct.
All right. So unless I get a straight answer as to whether you are going to continue to live there, because clearly he didn't want you there, that's going to be a problem for me.
Well, if she doesn't want me here, then I clearly has to leave, and I would be acceptable to do that.
All right.
Well, Your Honor, if I may, as you know, there's an eviction process that will have to take place first.
No. I understand there's an eviction process, and unless he voluntarily vacates, that's a different question.
Correct. So,
all right. And I will advise him accordingly. I will.
Okay.
I understand that. I just did 40 dispossessory cases this morning, so clearly, I think
know that you know.
Okay.
Thank you, Your
I just want to
Honor.
make sure the victim knows.
All right, India Albert, your bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. At the present time, you have to have no further contact with Quan Gordon. And my greatest concern about this is because there is an allegation of a weapon being used in the warrant. So unless that little issue is resolved, at the present time, there shall be no contact between you and Quan Gordon. You are to stay away from 3440 Boulder Park Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, until Quan Gordon either voluntarily vacates the premises or you file the appropriate eviction case to have him removed from the property through a civil proceeding. You may return to the location one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings and your child, because in the eyes of the law, you have exclusive custody and possession of the minor child that you share with Quan Gordon. Of course, Quan Gordon can have visitation of the child through a third-party contact. So I'm going to allow for a visitation with the child through a third party. Miss Albert, you can return to 3440 Boulder Park Drive on your visit if it's verified that by the police officer that Quan Gordon no longer lives at the premises. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so although that may be your home or you are on the lease, if he has been living there, the only way you can live there is if he voluntarily leaves the place or you file a civil dispossessory proceeding and have him removed by court order. Do you understand?
Yes, he can go to his family, so that's fine. As long as he's gone by the time I get there.
No, then you don't understand, Miss Albert.
I don't then.
You don't understand. Let me explain this to you again. You cannot return and live at 3440 Boulder Park Drive unless he voluntarily vacates the place or you file a civil case against him. All right. So until he voluntarily vacates or you get a court order that says that you may return to the property, you cannot live in that location. You would need to find a different place. You can return one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings and your child.
And Your Honor, can we do that? The one-time law enforcement can
Yeah,
just
that's
ensure.
the one-time
Yeah.
visit I've authorized. Yeah, if the officer verifies that Quan Gordon no longer lives there, she can go and live there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Next case, please.
Your Honor, what level?
Level 1, please.
Thank you.
Okay. It's all going to be level 1 unless I specifically say otherwise.
Okay.
Because most misdemeanor cases are level 1.
Okay.
Next case, please.
Judge, that was 3,000, correct?
Correct. Signature bond to pretrial.
Okay, thank you. Position 15. Yeah, that's the name.
Mm-hmm. 15 is Salar. Okay. One word with lots of vowels. Saduke Shamani.
And Your
Shimani?
Honor,
Yeah.
I apologize. He's my client. He's 17 years old. My office is working on trying to locate a co-signer for him. So is it okay if we just take this at the end of the calendar so we can give him that opportunity to get out of jail today?
Has he identified a co-signer to your office?
So it's a long story, but they're working on it with an investigator at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who do we have next?
This is going to be on the add-on calendar, position 1, McCovey.
Okay. Give me a moment. This is Lorenzo Primer McCovey, 23 CR 7483Y. Mr. McCovey, you've been accused of battery from a November 26, 2023 incident. You've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Miss Atay. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
No, jail was a recommendation.
All right.
Your Honor, okay.
Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Yes. No, this case is a bit fact specific, so I'll go a little slower. But basically, on November 26, 2023, the officers were dispatched to a residence located at 1320 Camelot Drive, College Park in Fulton County, Georgia, in reference to a person actually shot. The victim in this case, Mr. Jabaris, Jhabarus Hall, traditional spelling Hall, was actually transported to Grady Hospital with a gunshot wound to his chest area. The officer made contact with the victim at Grady Hospital. At that time, he stated that a black male subject in a black Jeep told him to turn off his lights, and while driving through the parking lot inside the Camelot condominiums, the victim and the male subject began to exchange words outside of their vehicles. The victim stated that the male subject's son, the defendant in this case, came out of the residence at that time. They both began to jump him in the parking lot, causing several injuries to his face and head area. The male subject, not the defendant, but the male subject went inside his Jeep, pulled out a handgun, firing several shots at the victim. In addition, the victim stated that he was able to pull out his handgun and fire a shot at the male subject, but the male subject was not struck in the exchange of gunfire. The officer observed the injuries to the victim's face and head area themselves. A witness, Angelique Hall, Angelique, Hall, traditional spelling Hall, was actually on the scene. She advised that the two males. She assisted and she advised the same story that was told by the victim in this case. The two male subjects were later located and identified as Brett Kelly, Brett, Kelly, Kelly, and the defendant in this case. During an interview of Kelly, the father of the defendant, Kelly stated that he asked the victim to turn off his headlights, and a verbal argument between the two took place. The argument escalated, which resulted in both the defendant and one moment.
Yeah, it is a bit of a convoluted fact set.
Yeah, it's and I tried to parse it out.
Let me ask you this: is Kelly and Lorenzo McCovey, are they related?
Kelly, yes, they're father and son.
Father and son. And there was an altercation allegedly between Kelly, defendant, and the victim, Jhabarus Hall.
Yes.
And during the course of the altercation, allegedly Kelly retrieved a firearm and allegedly shot Hall.
Right. There's another fact that is very pertinent to this, right?
Okay.
So Kelly himself, so during this interview where Kelly is giving statements to the officer, Kelly himself said he proceeded to ask our defendant for his firearm, right? So this is the defendant that's on the firearm that's allegedly owned by our defendant, at which time I'm assuming our defendant handed him the firearm and Kelly shot at the victim, in this case, striking him in the chest. Incidental discovery of his GCIC, Kelly's GCIC, discovered that he is in fact a convicted felon. And also Kelly, and it's alleged that Kelly struck Hall with a metal pipe causing injury. So there's a lot of party situations going on here. But our office was actually able to get in contact with Mr. Hall. He is currently being treated at Grady for 3 fractured ribs, a laceration to his lung, and obviously that bullet is still in his body. He confirmed the events that are in the warrant. It was kind of difficult, I'm told, for our office to have that communication with him because it was difficult for him to speak. I don't believe that he's on today, but if we, at the call of the state's request, we could, for Marcy's law's sake, sound for him, that'd be greatly appreciated. But the state's actual request is a $10,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. I say stay away from Grady, at least now, unless he needs medical attention. And no contact with either Angelique Hall or Jhabarus Hall. And the completion of an anger management course.
All right, Ms. Atay?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is a 26-year-old young man. He has no criminal history. The felony, that's somebody else, as Mr. Pierre Thomas stated. My client denies the allegations. I think the most important fact to note here is that Jhabarus Hall, the complaining witness, was the first person to exit his vehicle. So he with a weapon, as stated in the warrant. So any escalation that happened, I mean, Jhabarus Hall exited his vehicle first. Is that not stated in the warrant?
That's not my recitation of the facts, and that's not my reading of the
All right,
word.
I'm just reading. You may continue, Miss Atay.
So Mr. Hall did exit his vehicle first and with a weapon. My client anyway denies the allegations. He has absolutely no criminal history. So we are asking to follow the recommendation and a signature bond through the jail. And a stay away from this person. He's never seen him before is fine.
I'm not certain about the altercation between the subject Kelly and the alleged victim, but the warrant is goes into detail about Mr. McCovey's alleged participation in this altercation. Bond is going to be set at $5,000. It's a surety bond. No further contact with Jabaris Hall, which means he has to stay 200 yards away wherever Mr. Hall happens to be, and he cannot communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. His next court date is going to be December 12th. Thank you.
Okay, you're done. Add-on position 2, word law.
This is on the add-on, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is 23 CR 7484F, the new accusation in which State versus Jacoby Clyde Woodlaw. Mr. Woodlaw, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Atay. In this particular accusation, you've been accused of simple battery, family violence, and criminal trespass causing damage to property. Mr. Howard?
I got first arrest level 1.
Okay.
On a brief facts of the case, it appears that the defendant grabbed the victim's phone and threw it down the stairs, causing it to damage. The victim herself stated that the defendant started pushing her towards the closet and proceeded to put his hands around her neck, choking her. Stated that she called her parents in an attempt to defuse the situation, and it looks like as soon as her parents left, the defendant started a physical altercation again and proceeded to choke her and slam her to the ground and continued to punch her in her face for 4 to 5 times until she was able to remove herself and call the police. Our office has been able to get in contact with the victim. The victim in this case is Allison, Alison Woodlaw. The incident location is 4937 Lower Elm Street, Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County, Georgia. She advised that they have been married for 6 years, although they have no children together and they no longer reside together. So I think a stay away should be sufficient. I think she's
on the Zoom.
Yeah, I think she's on the Zoom. So if we could sound for her in accordance with Marcy's law. Given the limited history, however, Your Honor, the state will be requesting a signature bond through the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, a stay away from the incident location, no contact with the victim, and the completion of a family violence intervention program.
All right. Ms. Allison Woodlaw, if you want to contribute to this hearing, you would need to unmute and start your video. But that's totally voluntary.
I would, if you give me 1 second. This is a new phone. I have to turn on the camera in the settings. I'm so sorry. Please give me 1 moment. Okay, give me 1 moment. So.
Okay, while you're trying to figure that out, Ms. Atay, any comment about the conditions to the bond?
No, Your Honor, I'd just like to state that my client is a 30-year-old partially disabled veteran. He has no criminal history, and we're fine with the signature bond through the jail, but ask that he be able to return to 4937 Lower Elm Street as it is his home, and the complaining witness does not live there. She is here to tell you that. And so that's all.
So are they already estranged then, according to your client?
Yes. She's moved out.
All right, Ms. Woodlaw is still having communication issues. Has she left the Zoom?
It looks like she's connecting.
She's logging back in now.
Okay. All right, Ms. Woodlaw, if you'd like to unmute, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Are you and Mr. Woodlaw presently separated?
No, we were married. No
I
separation.
know you're
We
married.
guys-
Are you living apart?
Yes, I did move out of the home as of yesterday.
And so you do not reside at that location anymore. Would that be correct?
No, that is
Okay.
correct.
That's all I need to know. Thank you. On the excuse me. On the simple battery charge, the bond's going to be set at 2,000, and that's going to be a signature bond through pretrial. The criminal trespass and causing damage to property is 500. Total bond is 2,500. Signature bond through pretrial services. He may return to the location, the incident location. I think it was the 49 Lower Elm Street. Is that correct, Mr. Pierre Thomas? Is that where he lives?
Yeah, that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. He is to have no further contact with Allison Woodlaw. He's to stay 200 yards away from her, not communicate with her either in person through a third party, except an attorney, of course, if you guys are in the middle of separation proceedings, and not to try to communicate with her directly through a phone or a computer or even on social media.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. She did join the call today to let you know that she does want contact with him.
No, she's not going to get contact with him. Okay. Presently, as I was saying, what was I saying? So no contact with Allison Woodlaw. And while he's out on a signature bond to pretrial, he's to report to pretrial once a month. No alcohol, no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. You're not allowed. I understand that he was a former veteran. So, Mr. Woodlaw, if you possess any weapons or firearms, you have to surrender them to the authorities for destruction. You've been charged with a domestic violence case, so you are not allowed to possess or own any weapons on your person, in your home, in any vehicle you occupy, or anywhere near you. Do you understand, sir? While you are out on pretrial, you will attend and complete 12 classes of anger management, and you must begin those classes within 30 days of being released, and you must show proof of enrollment and attendance of those classes to your pretrial officer. The attendance of the anger management classes are not a condition to a conviction. They are a condition of your bond. So it's nothing to do with a conviction. You are still legally presumed innocent of the charge until the case goes to trial and the state carries its burden of proof or beyond a reasonable doubt to secure a conviction. Understood?
Am I able to say something?
Certainly. What would you like to say?
Okay, so I know you said no contact. I had a question as far as what made you go that route, but also letting you
You're
know
the
that.
victim of the case, and I've got a third-party warrant giving me a different version. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I don't know what the different version is. I got connected. I may have lost a part that happened, but also
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm
not trying to argue. I have his things.
Okay.
Which I tried to explain to his defendant and mine, because I'm the only person he has here in Georgia. So the original plan, if there was a no contact, was I was going to be the one he got arrested with nothing, no clothes, no phone, no wallet. I have those items in my possession because I was going to give them. There's no one for me to give them to.
Do you have a third party to whom you can give the items?
No, like I said, I'm the only one here in Georgia for him.
How long has he lived at the Camelot Drive location?
He doesn't stay on Camelot Drive. He stays on Lower Elm Street.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. How long has he lived at the Lower Elm Street?
Since 2020.
Oh my God, he's been around long enough. Okay. It's up to you, Miss Woodlaw. You can give it to a third party, or you can go dump it on the front door. but he has a responsibility to stay 200 yards away from you. All
Okay,
right.
is that a
Now,
temporary order?
No, there's no temporary order. This is a bond order. It's going to be in place until it's lifted. Now, Mr. Woodlaw, I don't know what you and your wife plan to do in terms of your marriage, but if you engage in any contact with her and the authorities find out, you could be arrested and charged with a felony called aggravated stalking, which means that you stay in jail for up to 3 months with no bond. So I'm just letting you know there are consequences if you violate the no contact order, but it's entirely up to you. If your wife currently has personal possessions, I would recommend that there is a third-party transfer of your personal possessions from her to you. Okay? But
Okay.
this is entirely between the both of you. I'm only setting down the terms of the bond. All right. Now, if both of you decide to violate the terms of the bond, all I can say is the only person who's going to suffer is Mr. Woodlaw.
I understand.
All right. Thank you. Next case, please.
Position 1810.
All right. And that was position 10?
This is position 1810.
18. Okay. Sorry.
In your honor, I represent Mr. Timms.
Mr. Yeager?
Good morning, Judge Law, or good afternoon, I should say, Judge Law. How are you doing?
Oh, fine. Thank you. Was that you, Mr. Yeager? Who was speaking just now?
He appears to be frozen.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Yeager. Your Zoom panel is, if you can hear me? Oh, your audio is going in and out. That's why I was wondering who was speaking just now. I couldn't.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay.
My name is Corey Yeager, and I represent David Timms.
Okay.
I believe on the calendar you have it as Tim, T-I-M-M. The correct name is Timms, T-I-M-M-S.
Okay. MMS, so it's missing an S. All right. And your client, David Timms, accusation is 23 CR 7478E, accused of simple battery from November 11th, 2023. Mr. Timms has been advised of his right to remain silent, and he's represented by counsel Corey Yeager. Any priors?
Third arrest, last was 04 DUI, level 1.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Pierre Thomas, any recommendation for a bond?
Yes, I'm actually in the process of recommending a signature bond through the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no contact, and 1 anger management course. Extremely brief facts is this is the situation between 2 brothers. I didn't recommend the stay away because the victim actually went over to the brother's house. Some sort of altercation took place that wind up with the defendant on top of his brother, the victim, and the victim's son trying to break it up. All parties involved confirmed the facts that were alleged in the warrant, and so I don't see any dispute here. Our office has not been able to get in contact with the victim, Bradley Timms, Tim, no S. Well, I guess his name, yeah, Tim, no S, I'm sorry. Bradley Tim, T-I-M-M, but if we could sound for him in accordance with Marcy's law, that would be greatly appreciated.
I think the accusations got him listed as Timms, T-I-M-M-S. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
Okay. Bradley Timms, T-I-M-M-S. All right. Mr. Yeager, I'm going to set a bond of $2,000 signature bond through the jail. No contact with Bradley Timms, no alcohol, no drugs, no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. And his next court date will be sent to his current address, as well as to you once we see a entry of appearance.
Yes, Your Honor, and I filed an entry of appearance and notice of leave of absence via Odyssey e-file. I've received back a filed copy of the notice of leave of absence. I'm just waiting for the clerk to receive the other filing.
Okay, when's your leave of absence for this year?
I'm speaking at a seminar November 30th and December 1st, and then I think there are a couple other personal leave of absences on there. I can give the court the dates if you'd like.
Yeah, it probably won't be till sometime of January, February, so I think we're in good stead.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I'm losing your audio. Oh, Mr. Yeager, I'm so sorry, but we've just lost your audio. But that's okay. We're good. Thank
I
you.
said we're good with that, and I'll wait. Thank you, Judge, and no objections to the other terms.
Okay, thank you. Next case, please.
What was the bond? I'm sorry.
2,000 signature bond through the jail, no contact with Bradley Timms.
And Your Honor, before we start the next case, can I be placed in a breakout room with courtroom 1 to do an interview with Furlow? I wasn't able to speak with him until now.
All right. Do you have any more clients in courtroom 2?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I'll take Ms. Atay's cases then in courtroom 2 while you are in court, while you're in a breakout. Okay, there she goes. Okay. Courtroom 2, who do we have next who's represented by Ms. Hoda Atay?
Position 8, handbrake. Handbrake. Never mind, he's asleep. Mr. Williams. Come on, Mr. Williams. Everybody's asleep. All right. Skillins. Position 16, Skillins.
Okay. State versus Sean Skillings is 23 CR 7475J, accused of theft by conversion from September 7th, 2023. Mr. Skillings, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Atay. Any priors?
Third arrest. Last was for suspended license. Got a 2022 false report of a crime. That's open, appears to be. This was level 2.
Okay. And Mr. Pierre Thomas?
You're on the recommendation is actually a signature bond through the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a no contact with the victim, John Huff, Huff. Very brief facts of the case. It appears that the defendant took an iPhone 12 or asked the victim, Mr. Huff, for use of his iPhone 12 and promised to give it back to him in a timely manner. He did not do so after several attempts. To the date that the warrant was sworn out, it still had not been given back. The estimated value of said phone was $600. If we could sound for Mr. Huff, that'd be greatly appreciated.
John Huff. He's probably shopping for the latest iPhone right now, I'm sure, but he's not present. Mr. Tay, it'll be a $1,500 signature bond through the jail, no contact with John Huff.
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Skillings, your next court date will be sent to you at your current mailing address. Please make sure that you confirm your mailing address with the court clerk's office within 30 days of being released. You need to stay 200 yards away from John Huff, and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. Thank you.
Stay right here. Dad, what was the bond again, please? That's up the way.
1,500 signature bond through the jail.
Thank you. This is going to be position 20, Williams.
Is that your client, Mr. Tay?
Yes, it is.
Okay. State versus Montez Donald Williams, 23 CR 7474A, accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property from November 27, 2023. Mr. Williams, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Atay. And Mr. Howard?
45 total. Last arrest was 2022, criminal damage to property, given false name. On probation for shoplifting and and theft by taking out of Superior Court, and a theft by receiving. You want more?
No, that's good. Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Very brief facts of the case. It appears that on November 27, 2003, the officer was dispatched to a call with the defendant being a disturbance at Georgia State University Center, the PAC Stadium. I believe that's the baseball stadium. At 755 Hayden Aaron Drive, Southeast Atlanta. I will just sum it up, given the nature of the charge. I will just sum it up by saying there he was participating in some type of erratic behavior that gave the officer concern. The officer went back and forth with him several times, asking him, why he was there. He gave sort of erratic responses. While the officer was asking him to leave, and while he was in the presence of being walked out by the officer, he struck a white Ford 2002 pickup with his fist punching the driver's side window of the truck. The truck is actually belonging to Randy Lee Gale. My office will have to adjust the accusation, but the recommendation from this, and we have not been able to get in contact with Mr. Gale, so if we could sound for him in accordance with Marcy's law, but the recommendation is a signature bond through the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, a stay away from that specific location of Georgia State, the stadium area, and MHET. And I do believe that is all, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry, that was a signature bond through the jail, you said?
Jail. Yeah,
Okay.
I felt with his 44 cycles, he may not be the best candidate for pretrial, but that's up to Your Honor's discretion.
All right, Mr. Tate. I'm going to grant actually a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. Does he still reside at Thomasville Boulevard?
He states that it's on and off, but he really does not have a home right now. So he's residentially insecure. And he did request, I interviewed him during court today, but he did request a social worker visit or something like that to help with housing and so that he can stay out of trouble.
All right.
And if I can also put the no contact with Mr. Gale, and if we can sound for Mr. Gale. I understand the way the accusation is written, it did not include Mr. Gale, but it will be corrected.
Randy Gale? No. No, my concern is, the significant criminal record history. I'm just looking at his bookings in just Fulton County. He just resolved a matter from this year alone. So I'm not inclined to do a signature bond through the jail. His bond is going to be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. And he's to stay away from the entire stadium at 7555 Hank Aaron Drive. He cannot be within 200 yards of the stadium, which means the length of 2 football fields. No contact with the owner of the vehicle, Randy Gale. I doubt he would recognize who the owner is since there's no allegation that the owner was at the scene. So I'm not sure how that's going to be any helpful. But Mr. Williams, you have a signature bond through pretrial, which means you'll have to report once a month to pretrial services. And it would be very helpful if you provide us with a solid mailing address. I don't know whether it's where you live or where you receive your mail, but it would be very preferable so that we can send you notice of your next court date. Because if you don't show up, a bench warrant will issue for your arrest.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, you're done. Is courtroom 1 still trying to do a breakout with Ms. Abbott? No?
They're already in a breakout. Oh,
So, hi.
They're out of the breakout.
Yeah, we just finished, and they are ready for McLeod to do her interviews, but it sounds like she may need a Spanish interpreter. So I'm not sure. It sounds like none was requested. I'm happy to send out an email.
Who needs a Spanish interpreter?
The clients that are in courtroom 1, but they're McLeod's clients, I believe.
All right, Ms. McLeod, do any of your clients need a Spanish interpreter?
Yes.
Not that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
So
Okay.
Santana is position number 14.
14. Okay, let's see if we can address that. Vincente Santana. Who represents Vincente Santana? Ms. McLeod?
I do, Your Honor, but I haven't been able to speak with them yet.
Oh, you haven't spoken.
No, Your Honor, I haven't spoken with either of my clients yet.
Right. They're ready for her to speak with them. Just one of them needs a Spanish interpreter. That's all.
All right.
Your Honor, I hate to sit on here like this. Santana, Furlow, and Mr. Cantu were all in the quarantine zone.
Okay.
All 3. Stop laughing at me, Abden.
Santana, Furlow, and who?
And Mr. Cantu, they're in the quarantine zone. So we had to separate them from everyone else.
Understood.
The only person that got interviewed was Furlough. I don't know if Ms. Abden waived his appearance because the courtroom we were using is now being used by another judge.
Okay. All right, who do we have available to address first appearance from courtroom 1?
Wait, we still
No
have to
one.
finish up in courtroom.
No
2.
one.
Well done.
Okay.
Okay.
I have to find a courtroom for all 3 of those defendants.
Can Miss McLeod go into a breakout in court? Oh, that's already being used by another judge. Okay.
Exactly. So what I'm going
Can-
to try to do is get them on the cell phone, and hopefully we can do a conference with Ms. McLeod and Spanish interpreter for Mr. Santana. But Mr. Cantu does not need a Spanish interpreter.
Right. I know Mr. Cantu.
What number can Miss McLeod call? Can you put it in the chat directly?
I have
to
Ms.
Ms.
McLeod's number. I can call. I know all my number by heart.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you, Deputy. That's what we'll do then. Okay. So we're going to resume with courtroom 2. And no, Miss Abden, you're not allowed to laugh. So
I'm sorry.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I still haven't been able to interview position 19. I may have missed a call from courtroom 2, but that's Kinajale Turner.
Hold on. Let me see who that is. Position
Turner?
19. Okay, that's going to be a reset.
The reason?
Okay. Behavioral reset.
Okay. All right, Kanije Turner is reset to the C calendar tomorrow, November 30th, no, November 29th, excuse me, at 2 p.m.
And then we have one of your other clients here, Miss, hold on, position 8, Hambrick.
Yes.
Come on, Mr. Hambrick.
I'm sorry, was this a male or female?
It's a male.
Male, okay. This is State versus Rashawn Hambrick, 23 CR 74708. Mr. Hambrick is accused of loitering and prowling from November 27, 2023, and one additional charge of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Mr. Hambrick, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Atay. Mr. Howard?
25 total.
Any open cases?
Yeah. Got an open case in the state court. 2 counts of trespass, PI, obstruction, loitering problem.
All right, that's good. Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 136 Walnut Street, where they spoke to the homeowner, whose name is Dolores Harper. She advised that the defendant was found on her property. I believe it was on her front porch, attempting to break into her home. The state is asking for a $1,000 surety bond, a stay away from the incident location, no contact with the homeowner, Dolores Harper, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond.
All right. Ms. Atay?
Your Honor, my client is 36 years old. I think he may be residentially insecure. It was difficult for me to interview him. But again, I think there are some issues with housing here. He does have an address that he states is a good address, 6818 in Douglasville. I know there's a lot of history, but we would still request a signature bond, and it can be through pretrial just because he can't afford a bond.
All right, just give me 1 second. Well, he's on probation right now from the other case, all right? Bond is going to be set at $500 on each count, so that's going to be $1,000 surety. Next court date is going to be December 12th. And no further contact with
Dolores Harper.
And to stay away from the incident location. I'm sorry, Mr. Walker, could you tell me that?
136 Walnut Street.
Walnut Street. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons. Thank you.
So Ms. Abden is on the breakout, Judge? I'm
Ms.
assuming-
McLeod's on a breakout? Okay.
No, Ms. Abden, I'm asking Ms.
Oh, Ms. Abden?
Francois, I'm here.
No,
Okay.
she's,
Position 13, Porter.
Antoine Dupree Porter is accused of criminal trespass and simple battery domestic violence from November 9th, 2023. Mr. Porter, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Abden. Your accusation number is 23 CR 7481B. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Fourth arrest, last was 05 FTA level 2.
My apologies. Who is this?
This is position 13, Antoine Porter.
Porter. Yes. One moment. Sorry. Okay, Antoine Porter. Brief facts of the case is that on looks like November 9, 2023, the officer responds to incident location, that being 1225 Fairburn Road, apartment EE2, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia, and South Fulton, in Fulton County, Georgia. For a simple battery call, the officer spoke with the victim, who advised that the defendant assaulted, who advised that he was assaulted by the defendant. The victim stated that he allowed the defendant to stay at the residence for a few days but they began to bump heads, and they realized that the relationship would not work. The victim stated that he explained to the defendant that he could no longer stay at the residence, and the defendant needed to come and retrieve his belongings. He stated that he advised the defendant to stay in his vehicle when he came to retrieve his belongings, and that he would bring the property outside to the vehicle. The victim stated that when he walked back to the residence, the defendant got out of his vehicle and began assaulting him by grabbing him by the neck and began to choke him. The victim stated that he was able to get away from the defendant's chokehold, and he stated that he was able to go inside the residence, at which point the defendant kicked down the door, damaging the frame. He stated that the defendant only stopped because the police got involved. Our office has been able to get in contact with the victim. He stated that he has known the defendant for a while. They both lived together in Chicago. They came here to Atlanta, and he let the defendant stay with him for a few days. They do not have a domestic violence history. I do believe that he is the victim would be on the call. The victim's name is Rashawn, Rashawn Ellis, ELLIS. The recommendation from the state is a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, a stay away from that location where the victim lives, no contact with the victim, and 1 anger management course. And if at this time we can sound for Mr. Ellis, that'd be greatly appreciated.
He had to get off. He said he had to go to work.
Oh, that was him. Okay.
All right. Ms. Abden, any objection to the conditions of the signature bond?
No objection, just for the record, he is denying the allegations as stated in the warrant.
Okay. On the criminal trespass is going to be 1,500. The simple battery is 1,500. Total bond is 3,000. Signature bond through pretrial services. Within 30 days of being released, he must update the clerk's his file at the clerk's office with his current mailing address, and it cannot be 1225 Fairburn Road in South Fulton. He has to stay away from 1225 Fairburn Road in South Fulton, and he has to have no contact with Rashawn Ellis. He has to stay 200 yards away from Mr. Ellis and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. I'm going to permit him a one-time visit to the location with a police officer to retrieve his personal belongings, including his vehicle. And that visit cannot exceed 1 hour. His next court date will be sent to the new address that he provides the court. Failure to appear in court, failure to report to pretrial, or getting arrested again will result in his $3,000 bond being revoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I do have his updated address if you'd like me to provide that to somebody.
If you can, well, you need to provide it to pretrial, Mr. Howard.
Okay. I'll send him a message.
and then to Holly Bridgewater.
Thank you.
You dash statement. All right, thank you.
Position 3, Beavers.
333.
Sorry, I apologize. This, we need a breakout room for beavers if possible, MH.
Okay. And
We're gonna move on to position 1. Apple. Apple what?
so far right now, I've only got position 3 for a breakout. I don't know about the other cases. Would that be correct?
That is my understanding, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry, Francois, what do we have next?
This is position 1.
Okay. Is this Akpele?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. John, middle initial E, Akpele, is
Yes.
accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property and misdemeanor possession of marijuana less than 1 ounce from November 27, 2023. Your new accusation is 23 CR 7463H. Ms. Akpele, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Abdan. And any priors, Mr. Howard?
No, level 1.
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 5540 Windy Ridge Drive, where they spoke to the victim. I will spell her first name, Uzomaka, Akpele. I believe that is the defendant's mother. She advised that her and her son were engaged in a verbal altercation, and he subsequently destroyed her metal trash can. Search incident to arrest revealed that he had marijuana on his person. The state is asking for a signature bond through pretrial services. We have reached out to the victim, but we were unable to make contact. So as of right now, we are asking for a no contact and a stay away from the incident location until we hear otherwise from his mother. No weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And we are also asking for a 1-day anger awareness course.
And he's 19 years old, 20 years old?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Ms. Abdan?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 19 years old. He does deny the allegations as stated in the warrant. It sounds like the police were called for an unrelated matter, unrelated to him. And when they saw the broken trash can, that's, when he was charged. And just to give you some context without going into the facts, he stated that he can stay with his girlfriend if a stay away is necessary. I did also try to contact his mother and was unable to reach her. He graduated, he's done with high school. He's gainfully employed. He was working at Tacos and Tequila for a while, and now he's in the process of doing an orientation with Orange Theory. He's going to be a trainer there. He also submitted some college applications and is planning to start school soon. Given the fact that he has no criminal history whatsoever, and the allegation is allegedly destroying a trash can, Your Honor, I am requesting that he get a signature bond through the jail. And as I've stated, stay away, no further contact would be okay.
All right, looks like the girlfriend also might be involved in this little family dispute.
Yes, Your Honor, she was there, but I don't think she was involved in what led to the trash can breaking.
Well, the affidavit says the accused admitted to breaking the trash can while arguing with the Mrs. Akpele. So, well, that's what the warrant says. Living in the same household. Okay. Mr. Akpele, on the criminal trespass, that's going to be $1,000. And on the misdemeanor possession of marijuana, that's going to be $100. Your total bond is $1,100. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. You will report to pretrial once a month. You will also update the court with your new mailing address within 30 days of being released. If you get arrested again for anything else, or if you violate the conditions of your bond, you could run the risk of being arrested again. You no contact with your, I guess, Uzomaka, Angela Akpele.
Yes, ma'am.
And no further violent contact with Marie Akpele. That's your sister, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You are not to return to the location at 5540 Windy Ridge Drive. Is that an apartment complex?
No, ma'am, it's a house.
Okay, you cannot return to that location. You may go back one time only with a police officer. And listen very carefully. I said you may return to that location one time only with a police officer. So just the two of you. Nobody else is to accompany you, especially your girlfriend. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want any catalyst for any future further altercation. So just the two of you. And you can go there for 60 minutes, 1 hour to retrieve your personal belongings. Then after that, you have to stay away from that location and have no contact with mom and sis until further order of the court. I guess that's how you get to spend your holidays this year. Next court date will be sent to your mailing address that you provide to the court. So make sure you submit that. Also attend and complete the 1-day anger awareness program with pretrial. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who's next?
Can we go to Mr. Furlow? I don't know the position number.
That's all right. We got it. Thank you.
Position 7.
This is State versus Arlushan Randall Furlow. Case number 23 CR 007-469D. Mr. Furlow, you've been accused of one misdemeanor offense of criminal trespass. You have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you say, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you, and we have Miss Rachel Abden. Miss Chauncey is here for a possible Spanish case interpretation case, correct?
Yes, that's for Santana.
Okay. All right. So your attorney, Mr. Furlow, is Miss Abden. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
15 total. Last was 05. Possession of a firearm by convicted felon. Theft by receiving. This was level 2.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant was arrested for for trespassing at the Exxon Mobil gas station located at 1105 Holcomb Bridge Road. The defendant had received a criminal trespass warning earlier this month. The state is simply asking for a $1,000 signature bond through the jail and stay away from the incident location. Again, that's 1105 Holcomb Bridge Road.
All right. Any objection to the stay away, Miss Abden?
No objection to the stay away or the signature bond through the jail. Thank you, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $1,500. It's a signature bond through the jail. Mr. Furlow, you cannot return to the Exxon gas station at 1105 Holcomb Bridge Road, and you're not to consume any illegal drugs and not possess any weapons or firearms. Your next court date will be sent to you at your current mailing address. So make sure you keep up with, you let us know where to mail your notices. Do you understand?
Yes.
Thank you.
You get up. You can go. Go back inside that room right there. Yeah. Cancel. Why you gonna close the door?
I'll close the door. Hello.
Hello. Who do we have, please?
This is Cantu, Your Honor. I don't know the position number.
Position 5.
5.
This is Anthony Cantu Davila, accused of criminal trespass and misdemeanor possession of marijuana, 23 CR 7467D. Mr. Cantu Davila, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you choose to say about the facts, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Miss Maureen McLeod. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
10th arrest. Last was in July. Fade to appear. Gwinnett County. On probation, criminal damage to property, 2nd degree, trespass in Superior Court. 2022, fade to appear. 2021, battery DV conviction, level 2.
Yeah, Sean, in this case, essentially this defendant is a co-defendant with the last position we did. They were arrested together. I guess they were living outside of the Exxon Mobil gas station So similarly, we'll just be asking for a signature bond through the jail, a stay away from 1105 Holcomb Bridge Road, which is the ExxonMobil gas station.
Ms.
We
McLeod?
have, we have no objection to the state's recommendation, Your Honor.
Okay. On the criminal trespass is going to be 1,500. On the possession of marijuana is 100. Total bond is 1,600. Signature bond through the jail. Mr. Cantu de Villa, you cannot return to the Exxon gas station on Holcomb Bridge Road. If you return to that location, you will be back in jail. So you decide whether you prefer the comfort of outside the jail or inside the jail.
Okay.
Make sure that you give us a good address within 30 days of being released so we can send you the summons of when to come back to court. Your attorney is Ms. Maureen McLeod, and no consumption of any illegal drugs, no marijuana, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Okay. Will do. Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, we're going to go to Mr. Vincente Santana.
Position 14.
Ms. Chauncey, do you solemnly swear and affirm that the information you translate will be a true and accurate translation with no changes or embellishments? Thank you.
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. All right. This is State versus Vincente Santana, charged with criminal trespass and possession of a drug-related object.
Este es la Fiscalía del Estado de Georgia contra Vicente Santana con el primer cargo de allanamiento de morada y segundo de tenencia de un objeto relacionado con drogas.
His case number is 23 CR 7477C.
El número de caso es 23CR 007477C.
Incident date is November 27, 2023.
Y este incidente ocurrió el 27 de noviembre del 2023.
Mr. Santana, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Señor Santana, usted tiene el derecho a guardar silencio acerca de los hechos del caso. Todo lo que diga puede y será usado en su contra.
You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you.
Si usted tiene derecho a tener un abogado y si usted no puede pagar por uno, uno será nombrado para que lo represente.
Currently, your attorney is Ms. Maureen McLeod.
Aparentemente, su abogada es la señora Marie McLeod.
Any priors, Mr. Howard?
¿Hay antecedentes, señor Howard?
First arrest, jail was a recommendation. I think he homeless.
Este es el primer arresto, el encarcelamiento fue la recomendación, creo que él no tiene techo donde vivir.
Mr. Pierre Thomas, is this also with our ever popular Exxon at Holcomb Bridge Road?
Yes,
Él,
Your Honor.
él también estaba relacionado con el asunto de la gasolinera de Exxon en Holcomb Bridge, sí, su señoría.
And what's the bond recommendation?
¿Cuál es la recomendación de fianza?
Signature bond through the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a stay away.
Se recomienda una fianza bajo firma a través de la cárcel y queda prohibido el uso de alcohol, drogas y armas.
Ms. McLeod, any objection?
¿Alguna objeción?
The state's recommendation, Your Honor.
No hay objeción ante la recomendación de la Fiscalía, su señoría.
The criminal trespass is 1,500. The drug-related object is 500 for a total of 2,000.
La fianza para el cargo de allanamiento de morada es $1,500 y de por tenencia de un objeto relacionado con drogas es de $500, un total de la fianza de $2,000.
It's a signature bond through the jail.
Es una fianza bajo firma a través de la cárcel.
Within 30 days, Mr. Santana will have to confirm with the court where do we send his mail for notices.
Durante 30 días, señor Santana, tenemos que confirmar, ya tener una dirección a donde enviarle a usted correspondencia para las notificaciones.
He has to stay 200 yards away from the Exxon gas station at 1105 Holcomb Bridge Road.
Usted tiene que mantenerse a una distancia no menor de 200 yardas de la gasolinería Exxon, localizada en el 1105 de Holcomb Bridge Road.
He cannot consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not possess any weapons or firearms.
Usted no puede usar drogas, ni consumir alcohol, ni portar un tipo de armas de fuego.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my business before the court today, Your Honor. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good afternoon.
You too, thank you.
Maybe
Ms.
that might be
Chauncey,
excused.
appreciate it again. Yes, definitely. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You're welcome.
I might see
Bye-bye.
you tomorrow again, so.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, courtroom 2, who do we have?
Judge, this is Mr. Cameron Coleman. He was not on the calendar.
He's not on the calendar?
No, he's not on the calendar. I was trying to see if he was no cross.
I'm sending over the NOD as we speak right now.
Okay. The case was not accused, so it's going to be a NOD, and if there's nothing else holding him, it should be released. Otherwise, this case won't be holding him.
Position 15. Come on.
All right, we are back with Salar. How do you say your last name? Yeah, like that. Case number 23 CR 74828, accused of battery, family violence from November 27, 2023. Mr. Salar, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of your case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, Miss Rachel Abdon will be representing you. And any priors, Mr. Howard?
No, it's
Okay.
the 17-year-old.
Understood. Miss Abdon, any success with a cosigner?
Yes, I have his entire family here on the line. They were speaking with the victim's advocate, so I was able to speak with the stepmom, who's the complaining witness. She said that she would be available to co-sign. She said she wants him to return home. Again, she's here and would gladly tell you that too, Your Honor. His father, Amir, is also on here. He is out of the country at the moment. Otherwise, he would have signed for him. And also his sister, who is, I think, stated she's on the warrant affidavit. She's also on the Zoom, but she's 19 years old.
All right. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Your Honor, the recommendation from the state is the signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. I was going to recommend a stay away, but I leave it to the discretion of the court. I was a no contact with the victim and one anger management course. Briefly, the allegation is that he returned home from school. There, he began to verbally argue with his stepmother about an incident that occurred the day before. And it's stated that he struck her multiple times in the left foot, left leg, right hand, right arm, and right abdomen, leaving visible injuries. And if we can sound for the victim's name, spelling is OMOLBANIN, last name GHOLAMI. And that incident location is 3170 Genesis Way in Milton, Georgia.
Mrs. Golami, if you want to address the court, you will need to unmute and start your video.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I've read the warrant, got the incident report, but What would you like to tell me in terms of whether you are comfortable with having Mr. Salar back in the same household with you?
Yeah, if I'm honestly, my son is the best boy. He never have a problem with me and helpful to everything. But yesterday we have a lot of argument, but he was the nervous. Everything was accidentally, you know?
No, I don't know.
Sorry, just accidentally. He was a little bit nervous with the argument. Was not the police report all the correct because he never had a problem with me before. But yesterday, I don't know why he was very nervous and he made a mistake. I never had an issue with he. He's a good boy and is helpful to me every time.
Your Honor, if I may ask a question.
You may.
So who called the police?
Salar. Because he was the nervous for the argument. I say, you can going at work, don't argument with me. But he was the nervous calling to police.
You know, that's not what the warrant says, but I defer to the victim.
All right, thank you. Is Ms. Kalami, you may mute your screen. Is there anybody else who would like to contribute to this proceedings before I move on to defense counsel?
He can live with me. We don't have a problem together, but my husband is out of country. We don't have nobody without here. Just we are the family. My husband is out of country.
And Your Honor, Amir is her husband. He's the father. He's on the line. I'm not sure if he wants to address the court, if the court needs to hear from him.
That's what I was asking. Is there anybody else who wants to contribute to this proceedings? There's Amir. There's Anahita Satude.
Anahita, yes. Anahita is my daughter, but Anahita not living with us, but he's 19 years. He's on the Zoom right now.
All right, so nobody else wants to contribute. So Ms. Abdon, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. My client's 17 years old. He is a sophomore in high school. He goes to Cambridge. He has no prior arrests. I am requesting a signature bond, and if Your Honor is inclined, through the jail, and if not, pretrial services, so he can get back to school. He's a kid. It does sound like this was a misunderstanding, as you've heard from the complaining witness. He was the one who called the police. I understand that the affidavit states otherwise. However, as you know, it's not an evidentiary hearing. He has two parents who cared about him a lot. They will make sure that he comes to court for his next court date. He will also be represented by our office. And so I am requesting no further violent contact. And if a co-signer is necessary, that you allow his stepmom to sign him out. His father, as I've stated, is out of the country, and that is the only person who can get him out of jail today.
Where is Amir right now? Ms.
He's
Ghulam?
on the Zoom. Yeah, my husband is on the Zoom.
No, which
but
country is he in?
Iran.
All right, so that'll be a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I can get the co-signer for he, right? Because I don't have a problem with he can living with me.
Mrs. Ghalami, you can tell me till you're
sorry, just I asked the
till you're
question.
blue in the face that you don't have a problem. But right now, what we have is a 17-year-old kid who is sitting in jail charged with a family violence offense. And if he goes to trial and he's convicted of this offense, his future will be in such jeopardy. All right? So you can talk to me about, he's no problem, he's nervous, all that. I understand that. But the problem is you're a victim in a criminal case and he's a defendant. And what I do is I take these things very, very seriously. If his father is out of the country and doesn't want to say anything, that's up to him. If his sister is on the Zoom and she doesn't want to say anything, that's fine. But I have to remember one thing, is that you are the victim in the case. And the person who is responsible right now for his behavior is Salar. He's 17 years old, but he's old enough to be arrested and charged as an adult. He's not a kid. He's grown
You're
up in the last 24 hours, and now he's a man, and he has to be prepared to conduct himself properly and be prepared to be responsible on how he behaves in this case. Do you understand?
Yes, you're right.
Please mute your screen.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Salar, your bond is going to be set at $3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Your family need not pay for your bond, but you, like I said, in the last 24 hours, you've now become a young man and you are responsible for how you behave and address this case. No more running to mommy and daddy to take care of this. You are responsible because you're the one in jail with the handcuffs on your hand. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your mother, your stepmother, Miss Golami, can be the co-signer. She would.
Yes, of course.
Please do not interrupt. She would need to come down to pretrial with a government issue ID, and she can co-sign for the bond. Mr. Salar, I will let you return to the family home, and you can live with your stepmother, with your father, with whoever lives in that household, but you cannot have any violent contact with Mrs. Golami. There cannot be any verbal altercation. There cannot be any physical altercation. If there is any future altercation, I don't care who calls the cops. The only person who's going to go back to jail is you. And if you violate the no violent contact bond, you might end up sitting in jail for up to 3 months before a bond can be issued. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You are not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you're not to possess any weapons or any firearms. If there are any firearms at home, they have to be surrendered to the authorities for destruction. Mrs. Golami, you cannot have any firearms at home, whether it belongs to you or to Amir or to any other adult in the household. They all have to be surrendered to the authorities for destruction. While you are out on a signature bond, Mr. Salar, you will attend and complete a domestic violence program. That's a 24-week program. You have 60 days to enroll in that program, and these are 24-week classes. So you'll be attending those classes once a week at your expense. Within 60 days of being on pretrial report, you will show proof of enrollment and attendance of those classes to your pretrial officer. You must report once a month. You cannot afford to get arrested again, and you must come back to court when summoned. If you violate any of the conditions of the bond, like I said, you are a welcome guest back at the jail. Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next case, please.
This is gonna be position 3, the breakout beavers.
Beavers.
Oh, thank you. Are there any other cases in courtroom 2 or courtroom 1?
No, just a couple of announcements and that's it.
I'll take your announcements right now. Francois, do you have?
Yeah, I was looking through the calendar. Position 17, spittle is a medical reset.
Yep.
And then also position 19 is gonna be a reset.
17 is a medical reset and 19 is a behavior reset, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be right back with you. If I can remember who was hosting. Was it Miss Strong? Yeah, Miss Strong. Miss Strong, if you could place me and Miss Abden and Mr. Walker. Anybody else?
Me, Your Honor.
Okay, Pierre Thomas in a breakout, please.
Can we have Miss Sheila
Oh, sorry, who else? Miss Sheila Thornton? Okay, we are addressing Merrill Leon Beavers, 23 CR 7465Y. Mr. Beavers is accused of criminal trespass and disorderly conduct from November 27, 2023 at a Whole Foods supermarket. Mr. Beavers, this is similar to a prior case in which we have addressed before, 23 CR 007-236Y. Given the circumstances and after conferring with your attorney, the bond is going to be set at $2,000 surety bond. Your next court date is going to be December 14th at 11 a.m. And you are to stay away 200 yards away from all Whole Food stores. It doesn't matter where it's located, as long as there's a sign above it that says Whole Food supermarket, you're not to return and you're to stay 200 yards away. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not possess any weapons or any firearms. And when we see you on December 14th, we will be addressing both the current case and your prior case as well. Thank you.
How much was that?
It's $1,000 on each count. It's a surety bond. All right. Francois, that was it.
That's it. We're completed here in court, Mr. Judge. Go ahead.
Just to go over the calendar, position number 1, Akpele is a $1,100 signature bond through pretrial. Position 2 is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. Position 3 is a $2,000 surety bond. Position 4, Brown, $2,500 signature bond through pretrial. Count 2, cruelty is null prost. Position 5 is a $1,600 signature bond through the jail. Position 6, ethic is a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial. 7, furlough is $1,500 signature bond through the jail. 8, Hembrick is a $1,000 surety bond. Reset date December 12th. That was $500 on each count.
That's correct, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Position 9, Howell is a $3,000 signature bond through the jail and released to only one of the holds, whichever Paulding or Jackson comes to pick him up. First dips. Position 10, Jones is a $5,500 signature bond through the jail. Position 11 is a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial. 12 is a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial. 13, Porter is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. 14, Santana is a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. 15 is a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial. 16, Skillings is a $1,500 signature bond through the jail. 17 is a medical reset to November 29th at 2 p.m. 18 is a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. 19 is a behavior reset to November 29th at 2 p.m. And 20, Williams is a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. On the add-on calendar, McCoby, I did not write it down.
$5,000 surety bond reset to the SAP calendar, December 12th.
Okay. And with regards to McCoby, I don't know if the state is considering referring it to the DA's office. Were y'all considering that?
We've explored all options, Your Honor.
Okay.
After that.
I didn't know, so I was just
Yeah.
wondering whether there was going to be a transfer order. Position
Not today.
2, okay. Position 2, word law is $2,500 signature bond for pretrial. We good?
We're good.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, just one thing. We got an email regarding Deborah Brown's null pros. It looks like they are requiring your signature. I just wanted to make the court.
Yeah, as soon as
I have it, and I'll send it over with the orders for the judge to sign.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. I have the pleasure of having doing C for the rest of the week.
Oh.
I drew the long straw or the short straw, whichever way you want to look at it. So